UFC Des Moines goes down this Saturday night, and it features a banger. Bantamweight division, Deiveson Figueiredo and Cory Sandhagen get ready to lock horns, but also don't sleep on this one. A huge middleweight fight between Rainier de Ritter and Bo Nickal. And who knows how this thing is going to go, especially with Bo Nickal uh, not looking great in his last fight. He won, but didn't look great. Can he bounce back with a dominant victory in this one? It's not going to be easy. Also, this past weekend at UFC Kansas City, oh my goodness. Lots of finishes. Anthony Smith retired. Rude Boy and Igor Meliskarov got down. We nearly had a perfect night. Nearly. We missed one fight. Whose name do you think cost us a perfect night? We're going to get into all these topics and Joe Rogan on why pay-per-view buys are down in the UFC. Stay tuned. This is all coming next.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is the TCMMA Podcast with your host, Chris Cross.
Whoa!
Dana White privilege.
Let's go, baby! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go! Let's go, baby!
Dana White privilege. Privilege. Privilege.
What up? This is your boy Chris Cross checking in. This is the TC MMA podcast. And before we get into the predictions this week, get into a little bit of UFC news, Khamzat Chimaev, DDP, what's going on? Ilia Topuria, Islam Makhachev, what's going on? There's endless topics to talk about. We first got to discuss UFC Kansas City last night. And what a night it was for Ian Machado Gary getting the big win over Carlos Prates, really in dominant fashion. He didn't look great in the 5th round, but at that point, it was a wrap unless you get finished, and he didn't. So he got a dominant victory last night. But first, the night started out with some big KOs, submissions, before you got into a few decisions, and then back to the KOs, and then back to the decisions. But lots of finishes. But the big story for us is last night we were chasing the elusive perfect night, and we nearly got there. So let's jump into first the main card. And at this point, we run through the prelims. We're 8-0. And we got to get 6 more, right? I mean, that's not easy on, even if we didn't have 8 in a row to begin the night. Another 6 in a row is very difficult. So at this point, we're still perfect, and this is Ikram Aliskerov getting the big finish. Check this out. Ikram coming forward continuously. 20 seconds left in round 1. Oh, he lands a left jab. Andre goes down. He's in a little bit of trouble here. Clock's ticking, 15 seconds. Can he hold on? I don't know. The ref's taking a look at it. Ikram's pounding away. The ref steps back. Couple hammers. There's a tap. And that's it. Ikram keeps the perfect night alive. Let's go. Big finish over the Brazilian. And he's back. After getting dropped by Robert Whittaker last time out, he comes in and finishes Andre Muniz inside of the first round. An impressive victory for him. It looked like Muniz might be able to make it to the end of the round, but it didn't happen. Ikram Aliskerov wins. He moves to 16-2 and dominated 41-10 in significant strikes, 27-3 in head strikes, and this guy's back. Middleweight division, UFC, Kansas City. Yeah, so the perfect night remains alive at that point. And then I know things are going to get interesting because you got Randy Brown, Nicholas Dalby. Another tough one is we're going against Anthony Smith in the retirement fight. So a lot of tough fights coming up, but I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid, right? I'm starting to believe we could get a perfect night here. And I don't believe it's ever happened. I think there was like one night where we were 11-0-1 because it was a draw, but that's not a perfect night. So we're still chasing that perfect night. I mean, everything's got to go correctly, right? So in comes Randy Brown versus Nicholas Dalby, and these guys are going back and forth. until finally you get a big finish. Check this out. Oh boy. There you go, Brown. Randy Brown lands a right. Boy, and Dalby's in trouble. He takes a right. Crowd's on his feet. Dalby's in a little bit of trouble here. And Randy Brown swinging away now. Dalby hanging in for the moment. And they're swinging. Oh, down goes Dalby. Let's go. Let's go. Rude boy. Rude boy. Come on, baby. Perfect Night's alive. 4 fights to go. Randy Brown KOs Nicholas Dalby. And that was reminiscent of Max Holloway versus Justin Gaethje, the way that Dalby went down. What a finish. What a finish for Randy Brown in a fight that was just massive from the beginning to the now. He gets a finish in the second round. He's going to move to 20-6. And the crowd's on its feet. They love it. What a win here. And what a big right to finish a night for Rude Boy. Welterweight division. UFC, Kansas City. Yeah, so I'm starting to really drink the Kool-Aid at this point. I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid. And then, all of a sudden, in the next fight, the perfect night comes to an end. Mikel Pereira laid an egg, and the perfect night came to an end. Man, but look at that, 13-1 on the night. This is rare. I mean, this is nearly perfection. Mikel Pereira in fight 4 lost, but then we would go on during the live watch party last night to get the final 3, Onama, Ming Yang, and Ian Machado Gary. So we were that close. Also, we're back to 7-7 in the main event. We'll take that. And we stretched out our wins now, and we're heading in the right way. We're not even at the halfway point yet, so this is good news. You know, we always want to get to plus 100 on the year, and hopefully more, but plus 100 at a minimum. So now we're 105-65. We're plus 40. And again, we still got 2 months in the year. So if we can get this thing over 50, we're heading in the right direction. But you know, and this is why I say we don't panic on nights where we're like a 7-6, 8-5, even a 9-4, which is still good, right? Because we know we're going to have those 11-2 nights. A night like this, 13-1, where it just really helps, and it really makes the predictions going forward even easier. So that's the way it stands for the picks last night. But not only 13-1, but just the UFC Kansas City was crazy last night with the chop going on. You know, like at the Kansas City Chiefs game, like you would hear at Florida State. You had all that going on during a UFC event. It was just an unbelievable night. So that's where we stand with that. Now, getting into a little bit of UFC news and then some upcoming potential fights. First, Joe Rogan was discussing, and I believe this was with Joey Diaz, if I'm not mistaken. Because, you know, I'm listening to the podcast on the way to work and, you know, get about 5 or 6 hours in a week between that and a few other podcasts. But Joe Rogan was talking about pay-per-view sales being down and why that's the case. And, you know, he goes into boxing a little bit, where boxing has like a big fight once every 4 months. So everyone gets geared up. But the UFC is fighting every week. And then they have one pay-per-view a month. And it's hard to get these champions on board. This is why you got Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway fighting for the BMF, right? The Dustin Poirier's last fight. I believe that's a pay-per-view setting, if I'm not mistaken. I have to look that up. But you only have 11 champions. 2 or 3 of them hardly ever want to fight like a John Jones. So you're looking at 9 or 8 divisions, and you need those guys to fight just to have one title fight. You need those guys to fight every 6-7 months, and that's not always the case. So Joe Rogan's tapping into something. You're going to have some pay-per-views during the year that aren't as big. You're going to have some other ones that are huge. You know, like when Khamzat and Duplessis fight, that's going to be huge. So, and then you got the UFC rights deal. Will the UFC go away from pay-per-view? You know, if you get with I mean, it's up to the streaming service that gets it, but that gets the UFC. But they may say, hey, we're just going to charge $30 a month for, your, like, say it's Netflix, you get the regular viewing package, but if you want to add UFC, now you're looking at $25-$30 a month, and that would suffice to do away with the pay-per-views. And a lot of people will pay for that. Think about it. Right now, you're paying $70 for just a pay-per-view. You can get all UFC fights for like $30. A lot of people are going to take that, and that's a lot of money coming in on top of advertising and things like that. So, we'll see how this plays out. But yeah, it's tough for pay-per-views every month. You're going to have some bad ones. And when I say bad, you're still getting 500,000 buys. So, it is what it is. Now, as we jump into some topics, of course, all types of people weighing in this week on different topics, whether it be Khamzat Chimaev, Duplessis, whether it be Ilia Topuria and Islam, a lot being talked about there. Let's just jump right into what the people are saying. That's the easiest way to do it. So here we go. First up, at King Terzi, a regular, says, ever since Khamzat came out speaking against Israel and promoting, you know, Palestine, I've noticed Dana White has downplayed Chimaev and not given him his credit for what he did to Usman and Whitaker. And, a lot of this stuff is being thrown around because it's like we never see Khamzat fight, right? I mean, that's the major story here is we never get to see the guy fight. He's gonna be 31 before the next fight, and it's like this guy should have already fought for a title, and his time is running thin because now you're starting to get, you're still in your prime, but it's like this guy should have been fighting for a title at 29 or 30. But nonetheless, here we are. Dana White said basically it's a done deal last night. So we just got to wait. But yeah, who knows what's going on, King Terzi? I mean, who knows what's happening? But there's a reason the UFC keeps slow playing this thing, and it might just be because they're trying to time everything up right. They need to delay some of these fights to try to beef up these cards, and it's tough. Tyrion says it's just messing around with a fake injury. He just doesn't want to prepare for June, speaking of Duplessis. And when the UFC is considering an interim belt between Khamzat and Kyle, DDP denies the injury to avoid that fight at all costs. And, we just got to keep in mind what we see isn't always, I mean, this stuff could be going on behind the scenes to try to give people something to chew, right? Because they're going to delay this thing for as long as they can. It's a big one. They're going to save it for the right time. He continues, DDP's coach has been on a radio submission show ranting about Khamzat, talking trash. The worst part is these people want to wait until August or September to enjoy more. And that's where it's headed right now, Another ways in, we all know that this that the new fight date, not in July, UFC 318, right? Okay, so that was a pay-per-view. Holloway versus Poirier for the BMF. That's going to be a rough pay-per-view. Not in August, UFC 319 and Goliath versus Pereira 2. Not in September. Oh my goodness, UFC 320, Guadalajara. It doesn't make sense to schedule Khamzat in Mexico. Yeah, so we'll see. So Khamzat's stuck in the deep freeze again until Abu Dhabi in October. Isn't there anything Khamzat can do to avoid getting, robbed again? Not really. Not really. And he wants that title so bad that he's willing to wait and wait and wait when really it'd be better for him to fight 3 times a year at this point and just continue dominating people. And when they set up the title fight, you're in full stride. I think that's why you run into problems is because imagine, you're an athlete and you got a football game every Sunday or Saturday or basketball you're consistently playing. It's making you better. For someone like Khamzat, you fight once a year, then you're going crazy before the fight. And that's why he's gotten sick and had, negative things happen. So he needs to be in a regular motion, and it's just not happening. So, and yeah, it looks like we've read that one already. So here we go, yeah. Khamzat Chimaev Goat says, Khamzat will turn 31 next Thursday, May 1st. He's not so young anymore. Time has flown by. His debut at 26 during 2020 is long gone. His prime, his best years as an athlete are waning. I agree. No belt has arrived yet, not even a title fight. At 35, most fighters are getting older, reaching the end of their careers. I know. He's just on the back burner all the time. He's just on the back burner. As we continue, now we're shifting over to Islam Makhachev and Ilia Topuria. One weighs in saying they're threatening to strip uh, Makhachev of his belt if he doesn't sign against Topuria at International Fight Week. He's the #1 pound-for-pound ranked, but can DDP get away with cheating Khamzat? You know, you're messing with me, bro. Khamzat has only fought once a year since 2023. If he fights at International Fight Week, June 28th, then he could come back at the end of the year and get 2 fights. What the heck? Don't they want him to fight twice? Evidently not. Evidently not. He's been #1 on the due list for almost 3 straight years now for us. And he's fought twice. I mean, it's crazy. But that's just where we're at. Why are UFC champs dictators who impose their schedules? Selfish interests. You know, why doesn't the UFC mandate that all champions defend their belts every 4 months, 3 times a year? Yeah. There used to be a 1-year rule. I don't know if that still exists or not, or maybe it was never a rule. I don't know. But it was like you had a year, and even, you know, and that's in case you get injured or something like that. But that seems to be gone because guys get injured and they're just like, oh, I'm vacating the belt. So I don't know. There's no general rule. Why does the company allow the will of a spoil sport like DDP, who only has 745,000 Instagram followers, to prevail over a media superstar like Chimaev with, wow, 9.6 million followers? I hear you. And the superstar is the one who has to freeze his career. It's wild, man. I mean, it is crazy to think that we're still waiting for Khamzat Chimaev to fight. It's like we can't get a break, and that's just what's happening. So, you know, those are some of the top topics right now. But speaking of some of the top topics, we got to get into 3 crucial fights this week at UFC Des Moines. And of course, we'll have all the predictions for you this Saturday night. But we want to get into the big 3. And in the first one, you have a big showdown here between Santiago Ponzinibbio and Daniel Rodriguez, 2 guys that win a lot, lose here and there, but win a lot. And, you know, they're on a collision course, to say the least. And this is going to be a big one this Saturday night at UFC Des Moines. So let's begin right there. Here we go. In the welterweight division at UFC Des Moines, you got a big one here in the main card. Santiago Ponzinibbio, 31-8 from Argentina, takes on the American D-Rod, aka Daniel Rodriguez. He comes in at 18-5, and these are 2 solid fighters getting ready to throw down. D-Rod, 1 inch taller at 6'1". He's 38, so is Ponzinibbio. 1 inch reach advantage for D-Rod, 74-73. He fights left-handed. Ponzinibbio fights right-handed. Now, D-Rod, 7.5 significant strikes per minute to 4.8. So both guys highly active on the feet. Takedown game, you know, they get one like every 5-6 rounds. So this is going to be a stand-up striking affair. Ponzinibbio, 71% takedown defense. That's really good. Even more of a reason to keep the fight standing. In our belief, Carlson Harris, he KO'd him in the 3rd round last time out, but lost to Muslim Salikov by split decision and Kevin Holland by KO. So he's lost 2 of the last 3. Now, D-Rod beat Alex Morono by split decision last time out, 123-74 in significant strikes, but lost to Ian Machado Gary. Okay, Neil Magny, all right, submission, KO'd by Gary. Lost to Kelvin Gastelum by unanimous decision. Now, he led 127-112 on the feet, but gave up 4 takedowns. So the key here is that D-Rod can throw down at a rapid clip. So it's going to force Ponzinibbio to have to take the fight to the ground to be successful, and I don't see that happening here. I think D-Rod is good enough. 57% takedown defense, not great. It does open the door for Ponzinibbio, but I still think D-Rod is the better striker, and will be able to keep the fight standing. But this is why the odds for this fight are almost even, because D-Rod can't defend takedowns very well. But Ponzinibbio is not trying to land him. I think Ponzinibbio believes he can win the striking battle. But I don't believe that's going to happen. I like D-Rod in this one, believe it or not. The American wins, in my opinion, by decision, maybe third round KO. Look out for that. To move to 19-5 welterweight division, UFC Des Moines. Yeah, so that's going to be an absolute showdown. And really, to me, it's a toss up. Like either guy can win. That's just what we believe is going to happen. And again, everyone jumps on us for the picks. We were 13-1 last week. We might be 1-13 this week. Okay, that's just how it goes. We're going to be right. We're going to be wrong. It's going to happen. But that's definitely a toss-up fight if I ever seen one. Now, speaking of big fights in the co-main event, I mean, this is going to get people excited, right? More so than the main event. I'll tell you right now. There's always that fight every week that goes crazy. Last week it was Anthony Smith versus Zhang Mingyang. More views on that than all the other fights combined. This is going to be the same way for this one because you got Rainier de Ridder, who's like 17-2, 19-2, something crazy like that, taking on the undefeated Bo Nickal, former wrestling champ in college. So, this guy's has brought a lot into the UFC, and he's already been calling out Khamzat for a future title fight, I'm sure. So, we have to keep an eye on this division, but this is a big one, and Bo Nickal struggled last time out, so let's jump into it right now. In the middleweight division at UFC Des Moines, you got Rainier de Ridder taking on Bo Nickal. And I can't stress enough how big of a fight this is. This fight has snuck up on me. I got to be honest, but I'm highly interested in this fight. This is Bo Nickal taking a big chance here. De Ridder, 19-2 from the Netherlands. Bo Nickal still young in the game. I want to kind of say he struggled in the last fight. We'll get into that in a minute. He's 7-0 right now, right? Big time wrestling champ. Trying to transfer it into the UFC. So far, so good. De Ridder, though, tall guy at 6'4". Might lead to takedowns, we'll see. He's 34. Bo Nickal, 29. De Ridder, 2-inch reach advantage. Both guys fight left-handed. De Ridder, 3.3 significant strikes per minute. Bo Nickal, 2.7, so not a lot of output. That's because these guys land takedowns. De Ridder, 2 takedowns on average per round. Bo Nickal gets 1, maybe a little more than 1 per round. But they want to get this fight to the ground. De Ridder right now, 100% takedown defense. I have a feeling that'll come to an end. He beat Kevin Holland by submission, okay? He also beat Gerald Meerschaert by submission. So you can see why this fight is happening because this is going to be a test for Bo Nickal on the ground at some point where, listen, he should be solid. That's really where he wants to get it to anyway, but he's going to be tested. He has no takedown defense right now because no one's even attempted, right? Against Paul Craig, it was a close fight. That's what I'm worried about, 54-47. In significant strikes, Bo Nickal edged out a victory. Beat Cody Brundage by submission, Val Woodburn, KO, Jamie Pickett, submission, Donovan Beard, and Zachary Borrego, submission at the Contender Series. So this guy is a problem. But that Paul Craig fight, if he fights anything like that, De Ridder is going to just win this fight easy. But he's tall. Bo Nickal short. Short guys, it seems to me anyway, have the better chance to get the takedowns. But De Ridder is so good in the takedown game as well. But how does his ability match up with a wrestler, right? That's going to be the tricky part. There's going to be a lot of games being played here on the ground. Or will we get tricked and it'll be a stand-up striking affair? I don't know. But I think this fight's going to the ground, and I'm just going to be highly excited to see how all this transpires on the ground. Who's got the edge? Who has got the edge? I got to lean towards Rainier de Ridder right now, only because Bo Nickal struggled in the last fight. This is a fight that if Bo Nickal wins, he's on the big stage because de Ridder submitted Kevin Holland. This guy's look strong, and he's 19-2, so he's not playing around with the record. So I'm going to take de Ridder here, even though he's the underdog. Another underdog we're taking on this card. We'll see. Sometimes that spells disaster, and it could be a rough night for the picks, but we'll see. I like de Ridder on the ground, surprisingly, and the experience to get the 20th win. He'll be 20-2, in my opinion. No submission coming here. He'll win by decision, but he's going to dominate 2 out of 3 rounds here in the middleweight division at UFC Des Moines. Yeah, so first of all, the striking in this fight is going to be highly interesting to see how this goes. Then if this fight goes to the ground, it's going to be even more interesting because you got a former wrestling champ versus a guy in Ritter that seems like he can submit almost anybody. Bo Nickal should have the edge. I'm just leaning towards Ritter because as we go up, this is a big jump up for Bo Nickal, and he can get the win. But I just think Ritter's too much right now. Bo Nickal's still the future, but this is just going to be a minor setback for him, and he's still really young, so he's got plenty of time to bounce back. And after you lose a fight like this, and of course it's my opinion, it's going to only make him hungrier. Mark my words. Now, in the main event, got a big one. Bantamweight division main event, UFC Des Moines. Cory Sandhagen versus Deiveson Figueiredo, former flyweight champ. Still trying to do his thing in the bantamweight division. I think he had one setback, but he's looked pretty darn good since moving up. He looks healthier and stronger. Doesn't have to cut that weight like he used to. So let's jump into this. Crucial pick. We're 7-7 coming in. Let's see what happens. In the bantamweight division, your main event at UFC Des Moines. You got Cory Sandhagen taking on Deiveson Figueiredo. And this is a big fight with big implications. The American Sandhagen 17-5. Figueiredo, the Brazilian, 24-4. Former flyweight champ, right? Trying to do his thing in the bantamweight division. Sandhagen, tall, 5 inches taller, at 5'11". He's 33. Figueiredo, 37. He's getting up there a little bit. Keep an eye on that. Sandhagen, 2-inch reach advantage. He's a switch stance fighter. His opponent fights right-handed. Sandhagen, 5 significant strikes per minute. That's a rapid pace. 2.9 for Figueiredo. So the ground game is something to keep an eye on because Deiveson Figueiredo, the Brazilian, lands one takedown every other round. Sandhagen gets like one every 3 rounds. Now, Sandhagen, 63% takedown defense. That's like average. Kind of, might be considered a little bit below average, but it's right there. He lost to Umar Nurmagomedov by decision last fight out. Dominated in the takedown game. He was just dominated. 5 takedowns to none, 98-71 on the feet. He did beat Rob Font by decision. Marlon Vera, that's a big one. Split decision. Song Yadong KO. So, it's a bad dude. Figueiredo, 60% takedown defense. About the same. Lost to Piotr Jan by decision. Right? Dominated in that fight, but he had 2 takedowns to 1. That was a positive note. But lost by 68 significant strikes. That's not good. He also beat Marlon Vera. He beat Cody Garbrandt. He beat Rob Font. So he's got some big victories as well. This is going to be a banger. It could go either way. But you know me, when it's close, I'm going with the Brazilian. I like Deiveson Figueiredo. Yeah, it's a step up to the bantamweight. These are tougher fights. But I think he's still getting his footing. I don't think he's that old yet. Brazilians will surprise you. Right? Same with Alex Pereira. Now, when they start hitting 40, you see that big 4-0 come up, then it's a different story. But Figueiredo is still very athletic, has a lot of endurance. I expect him, the underdog in this one, okay? 3.5 to 1. In my opinion, he's going to pull this thing out. But we're taking another chance, With the rough record this season in the main event, we're taking another chance. But I just like Figueiredo to get the win here. That's my opinion. And he's going to do it with some takedowns and just control the fight. But he's got to get takedowns. If it's on the feet, Sandhagen will pull away. But that's my pick. Bantamweight division, UFC Des Moines. And it's UFC Des Moines, as I learned later. I'm saying it totally wrong, but that's all right. We're going with the Brazilian. Don't invite Brazil to the party. That's the message. And this time it's for real because you got an American fighting in America, in Iowa. The heartland, if you will. And, Brazilians tend to come in and do really well on the road. Now, Figueiredo's used to fighting in America, but still, you don't invite Brazil to the party. And I think it's going to be a problem for Cory Sandhagen this Saturday night. But of course, these are only my opinions. We'll have to wait and see how this all transpires. It's all fun to see what's going to happen because you really never know in the UFC. This is your boy Chris Cross. This is the TCMMA podcast. I hope you have a great day and God bless as always. Peace.